My sheep hear my voice, says the Lord. I know them and they follow me. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus departed from there and came to his native place, accompanied by his disciples. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astonished. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What kind of wisdom has been given him? What mighty deeds are wrought by his hands? Is he not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his native place, and among his own kin, and in his own house." So he was not able to perform any mighty deed there, apart from curing a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was amazed at their lack of faith. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It's not one of those official examinations that happens at the end of your college career, but there is sort of an informal one. If you've gone to Mass often enough, what is the line that Father so-and-so repeats the most often? Or this other priest, what is the thing that he is always continually saying? For me, the answer, if you've been here maybe more than a year, is fairly clear. I often quote a line of St. Augustine's. I often quote St. Augustine, but I often quote specifically one line, which is that the whole life of the good Christian is holy desire. The whole life of the good Christian is holy desire. I didn't quote it last week when I was preaching. I quoted something else, which I'd like to add now to the mix. Because this question of desire is a powerful and important one. When we say the whole life of a good Christian is holy desire, we don't mean that they are unthinking, unfree people. They wouldn't be people anymore. Desire itself is a matter, the reason Augustine knows he can say that, is that desire itself is a matter of rational and free responsibility. Of course, it's also, like our reason and our free will, engaging with a huge number of influences and attachments that pull us this way and that way, some good, some not so good. So to think of desire itself as a way of exercising our responsibility, I brought in a quote last week from the philosopher and novelist Iris Murdoch. Way of describing, we've been talking about David now for a long time, although if you come to Mass tomorrow, it's the passage where he dies. So we'll have to find someone else to talk about soon. Turns out the Bible's full of other people. But I was reflecting on David's readiness to hang out on the rooftop in an idle moment while the rest are at war, and then he sees Bathsheba and things begin to go badly. And I found this quotation helped me understand the problem. As moral agents, we human beings have to try, it's a list of things we have to try to do to be moral agents: to see justly, to overcome prejudice, to avoid temptation, to control and curb imagination, and to direct reflection. Man is not a combination of an impersonal, rational thinker and a personal will. He is a unified being. Here's where desire comes in. Who sees and who desires in accordance with what he sees, and who has some continual slight control over the direction and focus of his vision. So if the whole life of the good Christian is holy desire, we have to recognize, well, what do we desire? Things that we see. And we are continually, if not entirely, and in fact perhaps only slightly, in control of what we see. So we exercise some ability. We can exercise control to a limited degree over what we end up desiring. Because we can direct and focus our vision, not just our physical vision, which of course that is also true and might actually be what we're really talking about here in the case of David and Bathsheba, but more generally, the things that we consider, that we choose to think about. David here in today's reading, we are right towards the end of his life. This is the last chapter of 2 Samuel. And we go to the second chapter of 1 Kings tomorrow, and he's died. Toward the end, what does he do? Decides to count up how many people there are. Maybe especially interesting that the final count is basically how many adult male soldiers we have. He has swapped, and he even regrets it. You know, he's smart enough to know, oh, that was stupid. It's the next day the prophet says, that was stupid. And I love God gives him the option of what kind of punishment do you want. More on that in a moment. He has swapped his vocation as King David, his mission, for a mere project. Something he can measure, that he feels is complete now that he's, when he was a little kid, he's the guy that didn't even get brought to meet the prophet that anointed him. Like, oh, well, there's also the stupid little one in the fields, right? He's come from nowhere, and he said, wait, 800,000 soldiers is pretty good. That's just one of my kingdoms. He's reduced it. I mean, literally reduced it to a number. That is to say, if our way of growing is a way of desiring, and our choosing what we attend to and how we attend to it, our attention, that is what we can control in order to form that desire. He is attending to the wrong thing by counting the people. And this, it turns out, is an error that causes suffering. He will bravely ask the Lord not to make the people suffer, but instead himself and his house. But God, in fact, will show him that the people will suffer. You have treated them in this way, and although it's your sin, punishment will be wrought on all of them. And of course, we should all know that our own, not just our grave sins, but our incorrect ways of attending to the realities around us, which thus means we are not forming ourselves as best we can to what we really want to be, has grave consequences, not only for ourselves, but for others. Hopefully not our enemy's warfare or pestilence down upon us, but often rather bad things. David chooses the pestilence. We get the options, right? Why does he make the choice that he does? We can have 3 years of famine. Maybe we get it right this time. 3 years of famine. 3 months of running from your enemy in the field, meaning you're losing the war for 3 months. Or 3 days of pestilence. Now, if you think the reason he chose it is because he chose the smallest number, I think you are missing the point, because the census was an error. The number is not the issue here. Of course, David even explains that. What is the difference? He chooses the pestilence not because it will be the briefest, but rather, as he explains it, better to die by the hand of God than by the hand of man, for God is merciful. If there were 3 years of famine, how would we die? You might say, well, isn't famine? This means the land is not producing. Or is it rather that it's like civil war. People are not working the land appropriately. When the food gets less and less year by year, they will begin fighting with and killing each other for food. I think that first one is 3 years where all you can rely on is your ability to organize, and it will still lead to tragic warfare among yourselves. But it's about relying on planning and farming. To choose warfare, 3 months of defeat. This again is dying by the hand of our enemies, who usually are not a favorable audience for our pleas of mercy, and the only resistance we can make is our own strength. But to die from pestilence in a time when there is no medicine is to know that you can't rely on anything. It's not luck, it's not anything. It's simply an experience of judgment. So David wisely, not because it's just 3 days, because 3 days of savage plague in a crowded city could mean the end of that city. When the Black Plague came to Siena, there's a very large, important Cistercian monastery that was outside of Siena, or San Galgano. I won't tell you the whole story. Just to say there's an important Cistercian monastery, used to be there, very beautiful ruins now. The Black Plague came, and a community of 200 monks was reduced to 0 in 4 weeks. Because they didn't have medicine, but they thought, well, everyone's dying horrifically, but we better stick together, which is a great way to catch the plague. But maybe a better way to die than dying all separately. That is, it's not really a small thing, the 3 days of pestilence. It's choosing the one that will demand growth in faith, because that's what I should have been paying attention to. So also in the gospel, a sad story of the people of Jesus' own hometown, the people of Nazareth. And just to imagine to be in the presence of Christ in his mission on earth, to witness him teaching completely openly, with utter confidence in his own childhood parish, synagogue, seeing the wonders he works, and that not moving you to conversion. What would it take? They are attending wrongly to him. Everybody desires salvation in some way, but when it's right there in front of them, they notice all the wrong things. This is the carpenter's son. Isn't his mother just marrying this kids we know? I mean, how could this be so important? Even though the evidence for his greatness is right before their eyes. They reduce him to the confines of his upbringing. Suggests they also don't know, they haven't paid much attention to the Virgin Mary, I feel. Maybe even to the others in the family. They've attended to him wrongly. Except for a few people. And why are they able to attend rightly to Christ? Because they're sick. A few sick people he could manage to cure by laying hands on them. Everyone else lacked faith so radically he couldn't do more. But a few sick people find him. I would like to know more about that part of the story. Their sickness, like the pestilence, is an encounter with just their need. There's no way to get out of it except by divine assistance. We have a lot of ways out of sickness now, but we still have a few things you can't get out of without faith, without the experience of faith, without the experience of Christ coming to assist you, change you, rescue you. This is not only experiences of liberation from long-standing evil habits or from dangers, even the good things. We want to do great good things, but we don't know where they are, right? We want to sort of go out into the world and say, I will apply all. I want whatever it is that will take me. I want to do good somewhere. Nothing show up. And when it does, when someone shows up whom we can really love, whom we can really assist, that's a gift from God. Somehow our abilities and our desire match up with someone else's ability and desire and needs. That is already an experience of God's power. But if we're not looking for that reliance in faith on God's power, we will only see, well, that's just that guy I knew. So consider your callings, consider your vocations, which do indeed involve arriving to a kind of rootedness, sure. But first of all, there is a breaking forth. That's why it's a call from come here, from where you are, whatever the vocation is. It's a breaking forth. We are called into our vocations, and when he does that, God is offering us freedom from these reduced categories of like the census or the people of Nazareth's little reasoning. And precisely because of that, our experience of God's call is difficult. We won't at first be able to understand it so easily because it's challenging the usual ways that we assess everything. And even more likely, it will be hard for other people to understand it completely. Even if they're very generous, friendly Christian people, they may still be tempted to reduce us to, well, that's just that guy. I worry about this when, like, my best friend in college is a priest somewhere, and I know he's going to be a bishop. He's extremely talented. It's going to be really fascinating for me, who hope never to be a bishop. It's a very difficult job. To think, well, that's just my fraternity brother. I mean, I know that kid, right? How did this happen? I'm assuming he'll become pope. Just so God can kind of be like, see, Father Stephen, look, people become, we call people forth into new things. That is to say, before we are rooted into our vocations, we must first be uprooted. To be planted anew, we have to first be taken out of where we were, so that our calling becomes something we experience in faith. Traditional way of studying this, or considering this, is to think of the soul as a bride. This goes back to Psalm 45. If you want to understand your vocations, it's not the most obvious place to go. It's quite mysterious, but fascinating poem, Psalm 45. Often thought to represent something about our calling. That the soul is a bride called forth from her father's house so that she can become beautiful, because she has become beautiful, for the king who loves her and will marry her and bring her into his home. So we are all, in whatever way we are all called to step forth into that vocation. Or as Christ puts it, to hate our life, to give up all things, so that we can then receive the hundredfold goods with the difficulties of oppression and of that shift leading to misunderstandings, but then also eternal life. There's more to say on that topic, but there's also Mass tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Feast of St. Agatha, and I'll be here again at 5 p.m. Maybe we can talk a little bit about why this image of the beautiful young bride is somehow characteristic of all of our vocations. But for now, let us remember that the true power of our good Christian life is that of growing in spiritual desire. It is up to us to be attending as well as we can, control it. That which will lead us to desiring what we know is what we want. Which begins, first of all, in these coming minutes as we offer the Eucharistic sacrifice here on this altar. May we attend well so that we may listen and find that which we most long for.